Hello, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us again in another session of Beyond Connections, where you investors can ask us analysts of basically anything about the stock market and some things that are in the recent news affecting the stock market. So I am Rainier Yu, one of the analysts of Abacus Securities, and joined by
Hi, I'm Bess Santiago, also one of the analysts for Abacus and MyTrade.
Hi, I'm Isaiah. I'm one of the technical analysts for Abacus.
Okay, so thank you guys for the brief intro. And again, for those just tuning in or for those first time viewers, uh, Beyond Connections is one of our avenues for you guys to answer, for you guys to ask anything uh, related to the stock market. So before we go to the questions or while we wait for the questions, so are there any updates that you guys would want to discuss?
It's been relatively quiet few days or weeks in the market, but uh, um, this week we're going to have some data coming out from the US, which will influence the Fed decision, which will also come out this week. Um, we're just talking about it. It's around 2 a.m. Thursday morning, Philippine time. That's when the U.S. Fed decision will come out. So I don't think markets are expecting a change. Do you agree?
Uh, oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah, but more or less the expectation for the upcoming Fed meeting is for rates to still hold. I think the narrative of sorry, higher for longer is still apparent, and I think the uncertainty is still looming around when the first cut when the first cut will happen. So I think that's really up to the Fed. Although we have seen some central banks have already started cutting their rates. So for example, we've seen Canada started to cut their rates. So hopefully we should see it starting to follow suit. The other countries to start to follow suit. So
And there was some conflicting or inconsistent data from the US that also points to rates being held steady. So there was some improvement in the jobs numbers earlier this week, but unemployment rate increased a bit by about zero point 0.1 percentage point. So that's parang was yung effect niya on the Fed's decision. Um, Also, inflation is the last inflation print, I believe, is still quite above the target 2% PCE inflation from that the Fed is usually looking at. Um, I think the last one was at 2.8. So there's still that concern from the Fed on inflation. So if they cut rates too early, that could stoke um, prices on their end. So that's probably why the market is expecting steady rates for this week. But for the BSP, um, the inflation print for May that was just released last week um, eased a bit compared to expectations, and also core inflation continues to slow down, which is also one of the things that the BSB looks at more than headline inflation. So we are still expecting rate cut from BSB by the end of this year.
okay,
So that's what you say. The basic is waiting for like the Fed to make a move.
The governor has mentioned in several interviews that they don't need to follow the or they don't need to wait for the Fed to move in terms of when they will cut when the BSP will cut its own rates. But they do still have to take that into consideration because they have to keep that interest rate differential in order for the exchange rate not to be as volatile or that volatile. However, the exchange rate has been already been volatile in the past few weeks, and the BSP doesn't seem to be too worried about that since they have been letting it depreciate without too much intervention. So probably not.
Okay, so thanks guys for some key insights on pressing news, especially uh, as we remind our viewers that interest rates really do have an impact on equities, especially with rates being more favorable for fixed income and maybe less favorable for the equity market. So I
There's a
guess
related comment from LB.
Later.
LB de la Cruz. There, that one.
okay.
Do you think rate cuts in August will happen if ever the tariff cuts has taken effect on rice? So that's one of the key considerations also. So the headline inflation rate, we expect that to go down to from the high end of the BSP's target range, so nearly 4% now, to towards more to the low end, so nearer to 2% by Q3, July or August. That's if the tariff cuts on rice to take effect. So I think we're still waiting on the executive order to come out before that can be implemented. But the tariff cut is substantial enough that we can expect that much impact on the inflation rate, especially since rice has uh, a very large weight in the CPI basket compared to other single items. So yes, if the tariff cuts are implemented right away, that August is more likely to happen.
Okay, thank you so much for that question or comment. I guess we can move on to the next question. So again, from LB De La Cruz, your thoughts on Apex, AEB, ASEN, MyTrade. So I think we can tackle those both on fundamentals and technicals. So first on Apex, I think Apex currently it's more trending based on gold price, how gold prices are trending. So recently, I think yesterday it dropped about 3 or 4% or even 5%, if I recall correctly, because gold prices have tumbled, and I think it was more of a continuation today. But not much on Apex as you've seen so far, but it's more of trending similar to how gold prices are faring. So I think we can take a look at the chart.
Let's show the chart quickly. Just a quick look at the chart. So initially, it's set up as a little triangle, but it wasn't triggered, so it broke down on relatively high volume. High volume. So trend is still up as long as it holds above 3.44. So if it breaks 344, that could already be the end of the tradable trend for the stock.
So
Still-
since you mentioned that Apex is tied to gold prices, can you also do a chart on gold?
Do you have gold here? Let's see. This is that gold. So gold looks like it's been just check here. Uptrend since about October 2023. It's a better trending instrument than say than APX as a stock. If it were to break 2,244, that would signal the end of the trend for now. Until then, I would presume that it would stay up.
Okay, thank you for that, IC. So next, I think we can take on AEB.
Okay, so we are quite bullish on AEB. we are expecting steady income still coming from EP, and then an improvement on the earnings coming from Union Bank since starting the second quarter, Union Bank will no longer be paying transition fees related to the acquisition of Citibank. So we would have a more visible positive impact from that acquisition. Also, consumer loans, even excluding the loan book acquired from Citibank, is growing quite strongly for Union Bank, growing double digits also. Um, and consumer loans also they have a higher yield compared to corporate loans and would be more resilient to downward NIM pressure or downward net interest margin pressure coming from rate cuts starting next year. Since consumer loans have uh, reprice are either fixed or they reprice a year or so after being made, the loan being made. So even if market rates come down, the yields for consumer loans will not come down as quickly. And also, AEV will benefit from full quarter earnings contribution from Coke Philippines. Uh, Also, second quarter has the summer months, which also bode well for volume growth for Coke Philippines. So that will also contribute to the earnings. And also, come end of October, EEB will be consolidating earnings from the Mactan Cebu Airport. So that's another positive for the conglomerate. So that's why we're bullish on AEB. Also, there's a share buyback going on, which also supports the share price for AE. Technically, what's the perspective?
On the technicals, looks like there's an exhaustion move here with the bullish falling wedge. Oscillator here is oversold. We also have the volume spike here, possibly a sign of capitulation. Um, so if you're buying value, it already looks oversold. If you're more of a momentum kind of trader, maybe a break above 41.40 would trigger a move higher towards, say, the next resistance levels at closer to so 48 pesos.
Additionally, I think this was removed from the MSCI Standard Index, which accounted for the big drop in recent weeks. But that's not fundamental to the company's um, earnings prospects going forward. That provides actually an opportunity to come into AV at lower levels.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that on AEV. Then lastly on ASEN, and I think similarly for ASEN, it was added into the MSCI, the small or standard
Small cap.
small cap index for ASEN, and mostly on its fundamentals. I think they are still seeing some issues when it comes to some of its plans going online, especially here in the Philippines, where there have been issues on its transmission lines being unable to connect into those. So that becomes one of its challenges that is causing delays for majority or for a significant portion of its RD projects. So, but as of the first quarter, they have come out with better than expected results, given the better output coming from its other plants across its geographical geographical locations. So our current target price, you may know about it once you subscribe to our to MyTrade, and you may read about it more on our short takes.
I think also there was a recent comment from the CEO of ASEN that they are planning on raising capital through a share sale in the next 12 to 18 months. So uh, that's going to create an overhang and a possible dilution risk for current shareholders. So um, that's also another reason why we're not that keen on
Yeah,
ASEN.
yes,
Yeah.
not yet keen on ASIN. So I think you can take a look at the chart for ASIN.
Oh, okay, so long shots out there. Let's see. Okay, ASIN. So this is what I could see potentially for the bulls. Hopefully, it retraces back to. I could potentially form quite a large reverse head and shoulders. You can see that the volatility bullish breakout already triggered, so it has upward bias. I would be, or the trend would end if it falls back to 420. So that would negate the current trend for this.
Okay, thank you so much for that, IC. Then I think we can move on to the next question. Thank you again, LB the Cruz, for your questions on your triple A's.
And also for being a loyal viewer.
Yes, not only in Beyond Connections, but also to MyTrade's other segments. So next question from Private. What is your take on DNL fundamentals? So for DNL, I actually like DNL. Uh, Despite its first quarter results, its net income was lower or below than expected, or it was below of consensus expectations. We think that DNL is progressing much especially for its new expansion plant where its capacity utilization is now operating beyond what we've expected, and even in its own management expectations, it has progressed better than expected, faster than expected. Then apart from that, the recent news on the higher biodiesel blend is also going to boost volumes for DNL. So we have those two catalysts that will likely boost DNL's earnings in the medium to longer term. So at least in the second quarter, we might not see yet the positive impact of these two catalysts, especially with volumes coming from last year might not be as strong. So uh, although for this year, kasi we're still seeing growth amid the low base from last year. But I think much of the growth will be coming from we'll start to see much of the growth starting Q4 onwards. And I think even the new expansion plant being just operational in less than a year, uh, it's starting to reach its break-even point already. So that's really a positive thing for DNL. So we remain to be positive on the company. Okay, they didn't ask for the charts, so you can take a rest, I see. So you can move on to the next question. So thank you, Private. The next question from Ellie G. Thoughts on SEB and SPNEC fundamentals. So for SEB, Cebu Pacific continues to be one of the more of a head scratcher based on its share price performance, because SEB has actually been performing much better than expected, especially the country's travel recovery since, for example, in the first quarter in 2024, passenger and flight numbers have even exceeded the fourth quarter of 2023, which is uh, quite surprising because Q1 is usually lean period for the airlines for travel compared to the fourth quarter holiday season. Everyone's traveling. So with Cebu Pacific performing that well in the first quarter, it is an indication that for the rest of the year that expecting expecting a lot of growth still, especially in the stronger seasons. So, for example, in the summer season, second quarter, and again in the fourth quarter of 2024, we are still seeing positive growth on that end. Maybe still another double-digit growth for top line, and it will of course translate down to the bottom line. Although the headwinds continue to be first jet fuel prices. Jet fuel prices continue to be elevated compared to pre-pandemic levels. But if compared to last year, I think it's better now, although it more or less has stabilized. But I think the bigger headwind continues to be the forex rate, which is trending upwards again, closing ranging from 58 to 59. And that's negative for Cebu Pacific because a lot of their costs and a lot of their uh, debts are USD denominated. So once they need to pay out these loans and debts, it's even at a higher, kumbaga, it's at a higher cost in peso terms. So that's really one of the factors affecting Seb's bottom line. But even with those headwinds present, I think they're still outperforming expectations both on the top line and the bottom line. So really, really a head scratcher of Seb's share price performance. And I think management has indicated or has provided some insight that the pending quasi reorganization might happen soon. And once that happens, uh, it could be a catalyst for SEB, and especially for the preferred share SEB CP, because it will pave the way for the company to be able to wipe out its deficits, and they will be able to pay out some dividends, and that could boost sentiment for Cebu Pacific. Okay. So for the next question, for SPNEC, not really much, not many updates as of recent. I think what we are currently waiting for is SPNEC is still awaiting for possible joint venture partners on the Terra Solar project. I think it's valued at about 200 billion, and they are looking for partners. I think what we've heard so far is there might be foreign partners, so that could be one of the catalysts. But I think we are. I think the stock is still experiencing some negative sentiment. Again, uh, from its 6 month suspension last year, and there were even talks or there were even indications after the 6 month suspension that they will have another uh, capital raising event that might be another SRO or FOO that could be driving the negative sentiment on the stock, or basically the overhang on the stock. So not really much updates for SPNet. I hear more about it later on. Um, but it's something that we are closely following, and I think that's it for SPNet. Okay,
Yeah, one of the reasons also for its recent weakness, more recent weakness is that it was deleted from the MSCI Small Cap Index. Also, just last week, end of May, uh, or or start of June. So that was when it was implemented. So investors will have to be patient. Will have to be patient on this one. I think it's not until 2026 when the supply agreement with Morocco will kick in. So it's something for it's a stock that you have to wait for the long haul, but the return potential is also quite significant. So bit of patience, more patience pa.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a comment from Hector Canalita. I don't think it's a question, or but maybe you may want to discuss Max.
Yeah. thanks for the comment. PSEI is still at 6,000. I remember Max's few years ago, 22 pesos. And ngayon, I think it's about 3 pesos. So, well, I think 22 pesos, that wasn't a few years ago. That was really
Years and years ago.
years and years ago.
Pre-pandemic.
Yeah, and well, the pandemic happened, and I think currently Maxis is still unable to uh, reach its pre-pandemic levels. It is the lagging restaurant among its few peers here in the Philippines. That's why it hasn't. I'm not so sure if it's gonna come back to. But I'm not sure if it's gonna go back to 22 in the near to medium term. Even the long term, if something, if the company shifts its focus more uh, again to drive its growth. But currently, I don't think it's gonna go back to 22 pesos, or 5 pesos might even be difficult for them currently, based on how they're performing against its peers.
Okay,
So
next.
yeah.
Maybe we can take one or two more questions before we end today's session.
Yes.
There's only one more left from Argozun. Please discuss Bloom's fundamentals. Maybe also technicals
Yes.
to give IC.
Nabobore na si IC, guys. And ask some charts as well.
So while you prepare the charts, Bloom, do you want to take that, Rainier?
Yeah, for Bloom actually, in the first quarter kasi, for the integrated resorts, or basically the physical casinos, uh, there are two segments in uh, that that we are tracking. So first, for the VIP segment and basically the mass market. Mass market continues to post uh, growth, but for the VIP segment, this is where the integrated resorts are seeing a slowdown. Basically, the lack of customers or foreign customers that and the usuals that we've seen before, the Koreans, Chinese, parang they aren't gambling as much, at least in the first quarter of 2024. And that's the one dragging that segment of the business for Doom and its physical casinos. So, but for Doom, well, we've heard of the recent opening of Soler North. Soler North currently just opened in May, so it's gonna reflect, its earnings will start to reflect uh, fully only in the third quarter. So when we take a look at the second quarter, we might see more of the costs escalating because of the pre-operating expenses of Soler North, and its revenues might not be fully intact yet, since revenues have only started to come in late May. I think that's when they open. I think the goal, at least for Soler North for this year, to reach a bit the break-even levels. And I think the negative part of in terms of Bloom's fundamentals this year is they won't be able to sustain their net income levels that we have seen since last year, because of those expenses related to the opening of Soler North. But for the medium to longer term for Bloom, it is positive that Solar North and basically the original Solar South are now operating, since it will have it will have that contribution for both into Bloom. So that would be positive for Bloom in the long run. So yeah, we can take
Quick
a
glance
look.
at the price action. Really choppy price action recently. So maybe in the longer run, it could possibly consolidate in a larger triangle. Hopefully a bullish ascending triangle. Hopefully trade in this range here. So until then, maybe there's other things that are better to trade.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that, IC. And I think Bloom currently is trading at about 12 times PE. if I'm not mistaken. So not really the cheapest, but I think still cheap. But again, there may be some negative sentiment, especially when earnings come out. That some quarters may be negative because again of those expenses, at least for this year. So
I think that's the last question for this session.
yeah.
That's all we have time for. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. And you can post more questions in our Facebook group, My Trade Map, but you have to sign up for My Trade first before you can join that Facebook group. And also, if you sign up, you will be able to have access to our research reports and other live events. Most recently, we had the Wink with GTCamp, and hopefully we'll have more in the coming months for you in terms of Wink.
Yes, and we encourage investors to join those activities since it really provides some insights and some knowledge of basically what those companies are and basically what companies we invest in. So um, thank you guys for tuning in today and hopefully see you soon. And we're looking forward to more of your questions.
And like and subscribe to my trades YouTube channel. Thank
Thank you
you.
guys.